Irreducible complex systems. Something is irreducibly complex when you take one of its parts and the system stops working. It could be something that we all have, like the human eye, other human organs, or it could be as simple as this. Evolution states that everything evolved. Given millions of years, mutation and chance with survival of the fittest, everything we see, including ourselves, evolved by those means. This might be simplistic compared to human organs, but it's very relevant. The human eye, for example, you have the eye with the lens, right? And it has millions, trillions, quadrillions of receptors in the eye, so that the lens captures the light. From what I understand, it turns it upside down. The brain then interprets that image and interprets that image through all the network of cables, if I may call them like that. There's sensors, millions of them throughout the eye, connected and to the nerve system and to the brain. So all this complicated system, just put in a simplistic form, is so complicated, so irreducibly complex, that you could not have the eye, let's say, evolve by itself into something that could capture light without having the brain to evolve at the same time to interpret that light and make it into something that we or animals could use to see with. As you are seeing me right now, you are using all those different systems to be able to see what I'm saying and doing at this moment. And Darwinists and scientists that do not believe that God is the creator want us to believe that these systems evolved separately and came together, and the whole thing just works just by magic. You snap your fingers and it works. But it's not like that. You have an eye that's very complicated by itself, and you have a brain that's also very complicated by itself, and one without the other would not work, and both without the connection in between them would not work. So you can say that evolution, after millions of years and mutation and survival of the fittest, that eventually, with enough time passing, it evolved to be able, this organ, this thing that we have that we're able to see with, this wonderful device, that this just magically evolved to see, to capture light. And then not only that, the brain also evolved and was capable of capturing that light and interpreting it and making the animal or us to see. And then of course the brain and the eye have all these connectors in between them, all these sensors and all these things that allows the information to go from the eye to the brain. But this is so complicated. I mean, if you could take this lens out of this iPhone, if you take this out of here and you look at it, and you look at it up close, you're going to see that this is a marvel of technology. This little device here is able to capture light and transform that light, that image that it sees, into something that we can all see, and records it for others to see, or for us to see it at a later date, or to put it on YouTube. This little lens right here would be completely useless without the electrical connection that takes it to the brain of this iPhone. This lens and the connections from the lens to the brain of the iPhone would be completely useless without the brain of the iPhone. The brain, the computer power that takes that image, that image and saves it, and then you are able to replay it again. If you saw this lens by itself laying around, if you were walking in the middle of the desert, or if you were walking on the moon, or if you were walking on Mars, and you saw that lens, just a lens, laying on the ground, and you pick it up, immediately you know that some intelligent being designed that lens, because it's so complex. And if you saw this whole phone laying on some other planet, Mars, you knew that this, or something similar to this, was designed by an intelligent being, did not appear by chance. Yet, science and scientists wants us to believe that the human eye, other human organs, the human cell, the human DNA, all that just evolved by chance. Just mutation upon mutation over millions, billions of years. And here we are today, descendants of monkeys, descendants of lizards, descendants of bacteria. I don't know about you, but I know that it takes more faith to believe that out of nothing, by nothing, with no purpose, nothing, no intelligence behind it, pure chance, could not create the universe, could not create us, could not create my eye, could not create those lenses. You have something here as simple as a mousetrap, and this is a good example of an irreducibly complex system. It's a simplistic system compared to the human eye. It's billions of times, trillions of times simpler than the eye. But let me show you what I mean. For this mousetrap to work, and if you have a house, or if you ever lived in a house, you know that for the mousetrap to work, you have to pull, and hopefully I won't get my fingers, you have to pull this back, because this is what catches the mouse, right? So you have to pull that back, you need that. Then you need this staying here that goes back here, and see if I can set this up like that, and holds it together, okay? And when the mouse comes over here, oops, I shouldn't touch that, I almost did. When the mouse goes back there, right, the mouse steps on that and it gets caught and is dead. Why is this an irreducibly complex system? If you remove this, starting from this point, that this is what we have, okay? assuming that, let's say this is the eye in a much simpler form. If you remove this, this will not work. You cannot hold this back. It won't stay back. Okay? It'll snap back because you don't have this. If you don't have this, if you don't have this part here, you don't have a way to catch the mouse. If you don't have a spring, this part is useless. If you don't have a part that holds this piece together and acts as a spring that acts as a platform to release the spring when the mouse gets here, this does not work. If you don't have a platform for all these things to stay together, like a body, imagine our bodies holding the eye. If you don't have a platform to hold all this together, it does not work. In itself, this simple device is an irreducible complex system. You take one piece and it does not work for its intended purposes. You might be able to use it for something else, but if this is compared to the eye, you cannot use it if you have one piece missing. You cannot use the eye if you don't have all the parts together in a right sequence for us to be able to see. If you don't have an eye with the lens shaped the right way, with all the connectors in there to receive light and to receive that information and to pass it along to the brain, and if you don't have a brain that can interpret those signals, you don't have an eye. You don't have information. You can't see. This organ would be useless. The brain would be useless to receive information from this organ. It's an irreducibly complex system. You remove one part, it does not work. It does not matter how many millions of years pass. You cannot get an eye by the passing of time and mutation. Let's forget about that mutation always goes from an organized system to a disorganized system. Meaning, when you have mutations, organisms always go from highly ordered to disordered. And as an example, you have mutations in the animal kingdom, even in us humans. And usually when the mutation happens, you may have an animal that is born with an extra leg or an extra head. And usually those things don't, you see an animal with an extra leg and it doesn't do anything. It doesn't benefit the animal one bit. It's a mutation that was not beneficial to the animal. We don't see those mutations happening to the benefit of whoever gets that mutation. Mutations do not get better and better. Mutations do not get to the point where they become more and more organized. In other words, you don't have a little blob of nothing in this region right here, and little by little with mutations this blob gets organized and gets a lens shaped into it inside in the right place, and it gets all the right things, including tears to keep it lubricated. And tears are not just water or salt or salty water. They are highly complicated. There's lots of stuff in a tear. You should read about it. A tear is not that simple. Everything about the eye is not that simple. So if you have all these things and you have a blob of nothing that little by little, with mutation upon mutation, evolves into what we have today, the probability of that happening is 0. Yet that's we are meant, and that's what they mean to for us to believe, that the population in general, that's what kids are being taught in schools, that this here just happened by chance, when this is millions of times simpler than the eye. Yet you remove one part and this does not work. God, on the other hand, is at work, and God made this, made this, made this all work. God is the creator of us all, not by chance, but by love, not by mutation, but by the will of God. God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. Genesis 1:27.